In a stunning reversal for Europe, Greek Finance Minister Kyriakos Piriakakis has been elected as Eurogroup president.
The European Union and Kiev have drawn up an action plan to propel Ukraine on its path to EU membership. The aim is to bypass Hungary's political veto.
Bulgaria's Prime Minister Rosen Zhelyazkov resigned after tens of thousands of Bulgarians joined protests over allegations of widespread corruption.
Football fan organizations have accused FIFA of a monumental betrayal as starting prices of World Cup tickets begin to circulate, reflecting exorbitant figures.
Greek Finance Minister Kyriakos Piriakakis was elected president of the Eurogroup on Thursday, rewarding the country's turnaround story 10 years after Athens almost crashed out of the Eurozone in a deep economic crisis. Piriakakis takes over the Eurozone functions on 12 December, coinciding with the exit of former boss Pascal Donohoe, who was re-elected this year, but abruptly exited the position to take the top job at the World Bank in Washington. The Greek politician will be in office for the next 2.5 years and will also be the chairman of the European Stability Mechanism, the EU's bailout fund. The Eurogroup, the informal body of finance ministers from 20 European Union members, handles key economic files including the EU's capital markets and the investment union. Coming under assault from China's growing global market share and US tariffs, the group's role has become even more crucial. Piriakakis has said it will work to keep the Eurogroup focused on its common currency and common interests, grounded in the core values of the Union.
The European Union and Kiev have drawn up an action plan to propel Ukraine on its path to EU membership. The two partners unveiled the agreement on Thursday following an informal meeting in Lviv, Ukraine, of the EU ministers responsible for European affairs. The aim is to bypass Hungary's political veto on the official opening of accession negotiations, a step that requires the unanimity of all member states.
It is very clear that we are 26 member countries that see a future with Ukraine in EU. It is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when.
Ukraine will informally proceed with the reforms it's expected to implement with support from the Commission, allowing technical negotiations to continue.
They all focus on strengthening the rule of law, fighting corruption and building the strong, accountable democratic institutions in Ukraine. And these institutions Ukraine needs for the future accession process.
The plan comes at a critical moment for Kiev as it faces mounting pressure from the US to swiftly sign a peace deal with Russia amid uncertainty over its future funding.
Members of the Coalition for the Willing for Ukraine on Thursday called for continued transatlantic unity as Europeans seek to exert greater influence in the peace talks with Moscow, and Washington ups pressure for a quick deal. The meeting came a day after leaders of England, France, and Germany, known as E3, spoke with US President Donald Trump on the phone about the latest developments in the peace talks. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the US-led peace talks are currently wrestling with Russian demands for Ukrainian territory and security guarantees for Ukraine.
About an hour ago, we had conversation with the United States team about possible security guarantees for Ukraine, and we are working on a framework document, and it must be strong enough to truly work. We believe this document should be approved by the United States Congress. This would mean real, solid, legally binding security guarantees for our country.
Trump has made it clear he expects European allies to shoulder most of the burden for security guarantees, with 26 countries already declaring they will provide equipment and assistance post-truce. But many of the plans are dependent on a US backstop, mainly in the form of air protection and intelligence sharing, something that's yet to be agreed upon.
Bulgaria's Prime Minister Rosen Zhelyazkov resigned after tens of thousands of protesters gathered across the country the night before. They were calling for the government to step down over allegations of corruption, as well as for better living and working conditions. Zelyaskov announced his resignation right before a scheduled vote of no confidence.
Преди гласуването на вота на доверие, днес правителството подава оставка. За оставката глас издигнаха и млади, и стари, хора от различни етноси, от различни религии. Затова тази гражданска енергия трябва да бъде подкрепена и трябва да бъде поощрена.
Предстои по-трудната задача, а това е България да стане наистина държава, която работи за всеки един от нейните граждани, а не само за един по-корпулентен, който щеше да прави държава с голямо Д.
The president will now ask the larger party in parliament to form a new government. If it fails to do so or rejects the proposition, two other parties will get the chance. If once again this fails, the president will appoint an interim government and call for snap elections. The turmoil comes as Bulgaria is set to become the 21st member of the Eurozone on the 1st of January.
Thank you so much.
Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić appeared to suggest he had received a message from Moscow. He was caught saying so on a hot mic during a visit to Brussels, in which he held talks with top European Union officials. Vučić was walking next to European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen ahead of taking a family picture. The two were accompanied by EU Council President Antonio Costa.
I got a message from Moscow now.
Oh, well, let's wait till we are.
Yes.
My friend.
It is not yet clear what message from Moscow Vučić was referring to. However, the Serbian president is one of the few European leaders who maintains a communications channel with the Kremlin, as the EU broke off diplomatic ties with Russia after its invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Vučić was in Brussels on Wednesday for a Serbia-EU bilateral meeting to discuss, among other themes, the country's EU membership bid.
A new World Inequality report warns that fewer than 60,000 of the world's richest people own more wealth than half of the entire world put together. The report highlights extreme gaps in income and wealth, which translate into unequal distribution of political power. A global elite amounting to 0.001% of the population is 3 times wealthier than the bottom 50%. At the same time, the top tier contributes disproportionately little to public finances. Middle-class workers on a high professional salary, such as doctors, teachers, and engineers, pay a higher share of their income in tax than a billionaire whose wealth is based on offshore structures or capital gains. Global wealth inequality also leads to an unequal contribution to climate change. The report shows that a person in the global top 1% income group emits on average around 75 times more carbon per year than someone in the bottom 50%. At the global scale, the top 1% accounts for 41% of all greenhouse gas emissions under ownership-based accounting. The report argues that the international monetary and financial system is structurally set up to favor rich countries and drain resources from poorer ones. Crucially, the report argues this pattern is not the natural outcome of free markets, but the result of political and institutional design. The report concludes that the current global system reproduces inequality between countries in a way that echoes, in a subtler form, older patterns of colonial extraction.
The organization Football Supporters Europe have accused FIFA of a monumental betrayal after the latest prices for World Cup tickets began to circulate on Thursday. Football's governing body has allocated 8% of tickets to national football associations for games involving their teams to sell to their most loyal fans. A list published by the German Football Federation revealed prices ranging from $180 to $700 as the lowest price for varying group stage games. The lowest listed finals ticket was priced at almost $4,200, while the highest came just shy of $8,700. The prices are a stark increase from FIFA's promises of affordable tickets, which they claimed would start at $60. It's also a dramatic increase from targets from U.S. football officials when bidding for the tournament 7 years ago to offer hundreds of thousands of tickets for a starting price of $21. The organization described the current prices as extortionate, claiming it massively discounts supporters' contribution to the spectacle that is the World Cup. They've also immediately called on FIFA to halt ticket sales via national associations, until a solution that respects the traditions of the World Cup is found.
Archaeologists in the United Kingdom have uncovered the earliest evidence of humans making fire at 400,000 years old. It has long been known that ancient humans used naturally occurring fire more than 1 million years ago, but it has remained unclear when exactly humans learned to create and control fire themselves.
So we have this evidence for a fireplace. We have next to it archaeology, artefacts made by Neanderthals. But what really makes this site extraordinary is the discovery of these two little fragments. And this is just a tiny little fragment of iron pyrite. So this is a mineral that can be used for striking. You strike it with flint and it creates sparks. So it's part of a fire lighting kit. So this is evidence that not only were Neanderthals using fire at this site, but they were also making the fire using flint and pyrite.
The archaeological team spent 4 years analysing the materials to rule out natural wildfires. Tests showed temperatures above 700 degrees Celsius and repeated burning in the same location, indicating a hearth was used multiple times. Other fossils of the same age were found in Britain and Spain, exhibiting traits linked to Neanderthals.